Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another episode of Coral Living. I hope you didn't blow my mic out there. That's okay.
I'm feeling it.
You must be
feeling stage red.
You must be noticing all the red, the tribal, the warrior paint that we got going on here. We're gonna dive a little deeper into the psychological development model of spiral dynamics. We're now into the third stage, so if you've caught us here and you want to catch up, you're going to want to watch the episode we did on stage beige and then purple. Now, beige is all about, the archaic, instinctive, primal, the basic beginning survival needs of psychological development. Remember this in spiral dynamics. This is monitoring your value systems, where your mindset is at. And in beige, it's all about just getting your food, water, warmth, a place to sleep. And then after you develop out of that stage, you go into stage purple, which is the magical, animistic mindset. It's very communal based. In beige, your consciousness is kind of just coming online. Tribal. Yeah, and then in purple, the first thing your consciousness does is it kind of takes on a community-based form in its most basic sense with your genetic family and the surrounding other communal people. Very small, primitive. You just want to go take a look at our video on stage purple if you want to learn more about that. And now we are making a shift out of the community-based stage of psychological development into an individualistic stage. This is the first graduation into individualistic thinking, which is stage red. This is the warrior stage. Now, is there something you'd like to jump on and say about stage red?
Yeah, in a nutshell, as far as I know it to be, it's definitely the warrior stage would probably be a good descriptor. The noble warrior, violent, impulsive, nowhere near on the mark of community based, because stage red is usually, even though they can have companions, it would be it would likely be like a small group.
Well, there can be large groups of stage red. It's just all dominant based. It's like a whole dominated society.
Right, but I think of pirates, and I think of
mobsters.
Yeah, gangsters, gangs.
But then it also, to me, something really stage red would be the Mongols.
Yes, yeah.
Which was huge.
A lot of
maybe the biggest army ever.
The Nazis would have been stage red.
Although they're stage red, there's also some stage blue in there, which we'll get to. Now, with stage red, I wrote down some of the pros, because this seems like a very ruthless, crude form in the psychological development model. But there's also some good things that come from red, and it shouldn't be overlooked. There's some things that come out of red when you're developing through it. One of them is you get what you want. You see what you want, you go get it. No matter what it takes to get it, you go get it, and then you have it. And there's no moral standard here. It's like, if you want sex, you can go rape and get sex if you want.
Why is that? That's not on your list of good things, is
it? No, that's not a good thing, but just the idea of being able to acquire what you want. The rape thing is obviously, the consequences of what comes from that goes into the cons pile. Learning to be assertive, meeting your own individual needs, and there's some pros from a warrior mentality. There's like about that raw drive to get something done, to conquer a task that you set out to do. It doesn't always have to be bloody and massacre, like a massacre. It could just be fighting for what you want, that fight drive. You see it a lot in sports, in competition.
Put it this way, you'd want your most deeply ingrained stage red warrior to be at the front line of the battle that you were in. Like, you would want somebody that was heavy stage red to be executing your
military mission.
Yeah, because they're going to have a brutality necessary and required for war.
Yes. Yeah. Now this is very selfish based. It's hard to try and relate to it, but there are certain levels you can relate to. We get in funny ways, we get our stage read out in us in, say, something as stupid as video games. Competing and killing someone online, or that's very stage red.
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, or mixed martial arts. Kicking the shit out of someone so you can be the champion.
Oh yeah, that should be mentioned too. That the stage red is very competitive. It's like deeply competitive, and there's a lot of glory reveled in defeating your enemies.
Yes. Yeah. One of the things I found kind of interesting about stage is they make monuments to their glory, to whoever they conquered.
Prideful.
Yeah, giant monolithic statues.
Narcissism, pride.
Yeah. Very crude. It hasn't really learned any big empathy yet. It's just out there to kind of get what it wants, and that comes with consequences and limits. Now remember that there's kind of this pendulum where we're swinging from the community based of stage purple. Now we had mentioned movies last week, movies you could check out that help kind of relate and see where things are, and we talked about Apocalypto after, right?
Right.
That if you've never seen the movie Apocalypto, watch that movie, because that is a beautiful depiction of purple and stage purple and red in the same movie, and how they kind of interact, and how you could see how stage purple would get devoured by red.
The good guys in Apocalypto, the little tribe, is stage purple.
Yeah.
And then when they encounter the Aztecs, that's who they run into, right?
Yeah.
The big, powerful Aztecs. And you're right, that is a big group. What was I thinking? Why did I think that it was small groups?
Okay.
Anyway, whatever. The Aztecs are very brutal. They're beheading people and stuff.
Yeah, so they don't even care. They're just lining people up that they find in the forest,
right?
Or sacrificing.
But
them
that's
to their
kind
gods.
of purple too, because it's sacrificing. That's a purple.
Yes,
thing.
yeah. Well, there's the mystical part there. It's the ruthlessness and the not caring, and the just taking whatever you want. And you see in the movie how they just deposit the thousands of bodies. They don't even care. It's very bloody. They believe in God as long as it suits their belief systems and their needs. Yeah. Their gods are actually very angry and wrathful, vengeful, and they need blood sacrifice. There are actually portions of even modern, you can, with what I just said there, modern religions and stuff that kind of feed into that. The early parts of the Bible were all about blood sacrifice, killing sheep on altar.
Genocide.
Jacob was supposed to kill his firstborn son. God told the Jews to, was it Jacob? Sorry, Abraham. Got that wrong. Abraham gonna kill his firstborn, right. But God stopped him. But then
God killed all the firstborn sons of the Egyptians.
Yeah. And telling the people of Israel to go into these places and not leave anything alive and burn it all.
That's from the Christian perspective.
Just but there's,
Judeo-Christian perspective.
there's other like the Vikings, their gods and stuff like that. They demand blood sacrifices and stuff like that too. I'm not as familiar with them. Just stuff you get from like movies and television, where who knows, it could all be wrong, but they depict it as them, serving their gods and demanding sacrifices. It's a very bloody, gruesome religion, which is a common attribute of red. So when it comes, back to Apocalypto, I just thought I'd bring that up because it shows you how red just goes out and conquers purple and takes it. Purple, you'll notice in that movie, purple didn't even see it coming. They didn't see the people coming in there. They weren't even paying attention. They just showed up and bam, took them. And they couldn't even see the warnings. There's a scene in that movie where the purple tribe runs into another purple tribe, and they see them walking by, and they're all weirded out by it, right? And then they go back. They don't even think about it. If I remember it right, hopefully I'm not remembering it wrong.
I'm surprised you remember that much about it.
Yeah, it made me want to go see it again. But that Apocalypto, great movie to see some stage red and purple in. So again, red is about heroes, bravery, honor, glory, and there's some pros and some pros in there. Now, some of the cons is that this violence can harm people that aren't close to you, but even people that are close to you. Someone who's deep stage red might not have a problem hitting his wife to get what he wants. So
somebody that's deep stage red would probably, back in the day, have like a harem. Would probably have a bunch of wives and not care about the fact that
they're getting knocked up or whatever.
Yeah, and a bunch of illegitimate kids. It's like that kind of attitude, right?
Yeah. Very impulsive, and then being super impulsive, sometimes, a lot of times it can come with some bad. Sometimes you can get lucky being impulsive and get away with some stuff. But a lot of times being impulsive, not having any foresight, being able to see what's coming down the road can end up hurting you.
Oh, one thing you didn't mention is stage red seems to be associated with drug abuse, or gambling abuse, like gambling addiction and stuff like that. That goes along with what you're talking about with the impulsive thing in terms of they're not thinking about long-term consequences.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So they're
living for today.
Eat, drink, and be merry. We fight hard, we play hard.
Yes. It's like their motto. Another component of stage red would be lack of emotional control. Which again, watch our episode on emotional intelligence. Well, there's some good stuff there. And stage red lacks empathy. It hasn't learned empathy yet. Which will come on a smaller level when it phases into stage blue.
It can love.
Yeah.
People in stage red can love. Here's another kind of thing to think about with people in stage red is the prison population. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Violent, impulsive, still have a capacity to care about people, but it's
very shallow. It's based upon usually acquiring or getting something.
I think that there could be even dedication, like a commitment to certain people or certain things. But,
to the cause.
Yeah, but it's the approach that's taken is brutal and not much room for anything too fluffy or emotional or soft. There seems to be a big aversion to softness. You know what I mean? A stage red person would want to beat the hell out of, like a hippie type person. Maybe lots of people want to do that, I don't know. But a stage red person would be, disgusted by the idea of everything, I guess, stereotypically feminine.
Yeah. A good thing to take note of in spiral dynamics is that you're not necessarily just like one color. not just red.
Yeah.
You could have like, you could be growing through red. Like there's very few pure red people.
Yeah, in
left.
fact, all of that was said, like a lot of I think what we said also has the caveat of if you're watching this, you probably have some stage red in you. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? When you know, like think of times that you get frustrated or, you know, like I'm thinking about like driving around and like road rage or something like that. Like,
exactly, yeah.
or just being kind of selfish, putting yourself before everybody else in kind of this hedonistic way.
Yeah, which happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we are living in an age of substance abuse and people, you know, just living for the moment, not caring about tomorrow, whatever it takes to get their, you know, their fix, whatever gets them, you know, and it doesn't have to be necessarily drugs, because there's many things that can get you a fix to fill that carnal drive. And it might not be pure red. You can be all like, you can be different ranges of this color system. You know, you don't have to be pure red.
Mm-hmm. And we only briefly touched on the good side of this, which you got to be careful. Like, I guess I can understand why you'd be careful highlighting any positives of stage red because it's associated with like the worst kinds of people, right? But I think the thing that's important to remember is that it is a stage of the spiral that you must go through in your development to some degree.
Yeah.
It's a stage of cultural development. It has to do with survival, and it's also not, in general, the concept, it's not like, you're not supposed to demonize it. You're not supposed to look at it and be like, it's bad that it exists, because it's a part of growth. Going through that is a part of like ultimate growth.
I'm glad it's good that you said that. Like, and it's not like there aren't like some good examples laying around. Like North Korea right now might be a good example of a stage red nation run by you know, communist dictators.
That's stage red.
Who doesn't care about his people. They can starve to death for all he cares. It's very militant. Do what I say, or we kill you.
So one of the other things about this is like we kind of loosely mention the fact that it's got to do with survival, that it's part of progressive psychology. What's it called?
Well, your psychological development, your
developmental
morals and your values.
Developmental psychology, and so how do you put this so that you can? So why is it valuable to know about this? To know about this stage?
It's just a system, so I think you can help kind of clearly see where you might be, some of the limitations of that of you know, that belief system or that moral value, some of the positives of it.
Understand that there's higher levels to get to. Yeah,
there's you know, it shows you that, oh, there's growth to be had. I can move beyond this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't have to just stop at stage red. And as we go through this spiral, we're going to start getting into some more common value systems that you, our viewer, might be in.
Mm-hmm.
You might watch this and go, well, that sounds like me now. Because that's where it's going. Like the next stage, once you get into stage blue, there are people in our culture, in Western culture, that are still deeply seated in blue.
Yes. Stage red's still pretty low on the hierarchy.
Yeah, there's still stage red roaming around the planet, and lots of, you know, in not so full on red, but
well, you might be surprised to hear about certain dictators and like presidents and stuff that were stage red. Like, you know, I've heard Putin likened to stage red.
I would not. I've heard it too.
I've heard Trump likened to stage red.
It's ridiculous.
Okay, but I don't know how ridiculous that is. I'm just saying, sometimes it can be more subtle. It's not always chopping someone's head off.
Yes.
It can also, but it's in that realm.
They have components of stage red.
And here's the other thing.
Yes.
I don't think that you should look at it and be like, oh, I've transcended that. I'm a soft-hearted person. I'm a vegan now, and all this. I don't eat meat. I don't wear clothes that have been made out of animals. Why am I stuck on the animal stuff? I tell the truth. I have empathy, and I'm part of the drum circle. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm saying that you may need to tap into the red that you have integrated at some point. Because remember, like, I don't know if you could go through it in the terrible twos when you're little, but like to some degree, as you're making your way up the spiral, you will have gone through a stage red.
Oh yeah.
Probably in your teenage years.
Imagine being in the playground, just like you're fighting for alpha status in public school,
Right.
and you're like, "Well, I'm gonna punch this kid and beat him up,
and
then I'm gonna be the alpha."
Right. We all learn about lying. We're like, I can just lie. I can lie. People
Yeah.
believe me when I lie. So you learn all these things, but when you really like have a don't give a shit attitude, you're in stage red, and it's like common to rebellious teenager stage.
Yes.
Right? But my point, what I was trying to make was, you may need to tap into red at some point. When the chips are down and you're and not likely because we live in a civilized society, but it could happen that you may have to dig deep into your personality or your psyche and pull forth, some stage red for something that causes you to be in warrior mode.
I'm sure a lot of the Ukrainians right now with the war.
Oh yeah,
are probably digging deep into the red right now.
That's right. You're shutting down all the soft, gushy, lovey things, and you're tapping into you're praying to the war gods.
Yeah. So no, I'm glad you brought up that, because I've watched a lot of people do commentaries on stage red. And I find it's usually probably a lot of green people throwing Trump into the red category. People love to talk about Trump on whatever chance they get.
I thought he was orange. I labeled Trump as orange.
Trump is hard orange, but he does have, I would say, almost, you could probably find stage red in Justin Trudeau if you wanted. I find that there's all these leaders, because of the position that they're in, have certain facets. Like narcissism is like stage red. And so like you could find narcissism in almost all these leaders. They all have some type of weird component where like it doesn't matter when everyone around me telling me I'm making the wrong decision. I'm going to make the one that I chose to do because I'll look stupid if I go against it now.
Mm-hmm.
So like to me that's a very stage red thing.
Not admitting you're wrong. Check out our admitting when you're wrong episode.
Yeah. Trump has components of red. Putin has components of red. The most red one would be that Kim Jong-il or Sun or whatever the hell the guy's name is from North Korea. He's pretty red.
Genghis Khan. There's all kinds of historical ones that you
the
can look
Spartans.
at. Right. Like ancient Rome and stuff like that. And, what was I gonna say? I forget. Keep going.
That's okay. So once red, it's when it transitions out of itself, it's because it starts to see the limits of just tackling the world with brute force and conquering it. There's consequences.
Which, by the way, is why you get out of all the stages, is you start to see the limits of them.
Well, yes.
Typically, it's because you've gained a new layer of awareness, essentially. But you're in that awareness that you've gained could be, reasons out of your hands, could be because of your own direct fault. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, there's an inner dilemma in what's going on, but also realize that stage red was around for like thousands of years.
Yeah.
As we go through the spiral, it seems to look like there's actually an acceleration of psychological development, because you're going to notice that the time frames are starting to get more compacted as you go through them. Stage red was around for a long time, but what happens with stage red is that you get sick and tired of always having to look over your shoulder. When you're a warlord conqueror, you better pray to God that you are on the best team.
Not to mention, there's no stability because hand in hand with stage red is like a lack of rules.
Yeah.
It makes life very unstable, and it makes life kind of scary and unpredictable. Like how are you ever supposed to rest?
Yeah.
You're enemies with many people, the people you care about are being hurt. You're being hurt. You're losing things sometimes by your own fault.
Yeah. Even the king's sons grow up learning. Well, you got to take what you want. So if I want to be king, I better kill Dad first. Kill Dad before my bros get it, and then I'll have to hire an army to watch me, so I don't have to die. Yeah. That sucks to live like that. And it's the same with you conquer a village or you conquer another territory. You better pray that the next one beside that one isn't stronger than yours, because they're going to see what you just did. And they're going to try and take you.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. Eventually, the bloodlust, the thirst, eventually you start to realize that, there's got to be a better way.
And again, to remind everybody who's watching, who's been following the series, these things happen on the micro level and on the macro level. So they happen throughout the individual's life.
Yeah.
If you reflect on it, you likely be able to, if you're a regular human, be able to think of a time where you kind of went through a stage similar to what we're talking about to some degree, but then it happened societally, right? Yeah. So you can imagine there was a time where there was a lot of war and stuff, and people started looking at each other and like, let's lay down some ground rules. Let's maybe, start agreeing, like getting along with each other. So we're not like, just I take your stuff, you take mine. How many generations of think about holy wars. Think about these people have been fighting so long that they can't even remember what started the fight. But they've just been massacring each other back and forth forever. Yeah. It's going to dawn on the group of people at some point, you can't go on like this.
Yeah, forever and ever. And it's not just eye for an eye. It's like, if you take my eye, I'm going to take your whole body.
Yeah.
Kill you.
Yeah. You take my body, then my guys are going to take your body, your family body, and
yeah, exactly.
they're animals.
It just gets worse and worse. There seems to be no end to it. So there is a bit of a dilemma in being so individually egocentric, and that's kind of essentially what's happening. An ego is starting to evolve in the midst of the individual.
All right.
As they grow.
So as an example, what would you say? Can you think of a time where you can recall sort of being in a stage red place and what moved you out of it?
Well, being as a child, I can definitely remember being greedy and wanting a bunch of things, and so I would kick and scream to get whatever the hell I wanted out of that.
Yeah, come on, that's every kid.
That's eventually exactly. That's kind of like the infant phase, growing through red, where it just seems like because we're so disassociated with that day and age, it's hard to relate as directly with that. So the transition happens much earlier now. As a child, when you fight and kick and, if I'm greedy and I fight my friends to get everything, they're not going to play with me at recess. Mm-hmm. So I learn that in order for me to build peace with my friends and the people around me, I have to give as much as I take.
Right. So that's another element that's linked right up to stage red, is the idea of mutiny and coups happening against we already talked about.
Yeah. If I'm just always taking, no one's gonna want to be around me or work with me. So it works against me to be so selfish. Mm-hmm. We learn that as we get older. Hopefully, was that a good enough example? I don't know. I can't think of an exact example. I just feel
kind of hard to think. I'm more of thinking I can remember as a teenager being, everything was sort of like that. Going through a stage where you're very much I guess I was a little bit rough as a teenager, you know what I mean? But I remember that sort of thing, getting into fights with people over stupid things, probably your friends and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Over really just close-minded, selfish things, and it's actually funny when you grow out of that and you go into the world and you'll see somebody that's a businessman, but they're still kind of acting like a teenager. You'll see them yelling at somebody on the phone and slamming it down. You're like, dude, you're how are you 45 and still acting like a petulant child?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's those are parts of like their stage red that they haven't maybe grown through, right? And yeah, it's still
Hey man, I'm guilty of that sometimes too. To be honest,
I think we all have some red in us.
yeah.
Like,
But that's
we all
red.
have
That's
it,
red
yeah.
stuff. Right?
That's red. It's just red stuff. Some of it are more like it entrenches their whole life than others. But yeah, that pretty much covers it. And so red will transition into stage blue, which I'm excited about because when we get into, I think, blue, orange, and green, there's a lot going on in the world that we can talk about and how these three stages right now don't understand each other.
And dominate the world. Those have got to be the biggest.
Yeah,
like I mean, in third world countries, there's probably still a lot of red right now.
Yeah.
But for the Western world and likely most of our viewers, it's going to be blue, orange, and green.
Yes.
Is what they're going to be like. Oh yeah, I know some people like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're gonna start recognizing some deeper, closer, more personal sides of this as we start to go through the model, and I'm excited about it because we get to talk about kind of like how this is like really getting involved with the world of politics, the issues that are going on right now, and if we could understand this model, see how it really is affecting us as a whole. We might be able to get out of this if we could just learn to sit down and listen to each other, and learn why people value certain things more than others, and why we get into some of the conflicts we get into.
Can I say one last thing?
Yeah.
So part of what happens when you start learning about spiral dynamics is you start like diagnosing people with at different stages, right?
Yeah.
And I get the sense that with stage red, it's not the type of, like if you identify somebody and you're like, okay, this person's like psychopathic, sociopathic, criminal behavior, they're probably a stage red. I think that it's probably one of the stages where you're not going to get very far trying to convince them out of it. Now, I think that's different when you get to stage maybe orange and green. I don't know about blue. But orange and green, if you're aware of spiral dynamics, you might be able to actually tell the person about it and get them to go higher up on the model.
Yes, it possibly.
With red, it seems to be a personal transformation. With red, it seems to be like almost like an epiphany the person goes through that makes them go past it.
Yeah. And like as the first phase of spiral dynamics, like there's a whole bunch, there's like 7 color codes, and before you get into something called tier 2 growth, this whole tier 1 growth, this like all the colors in the first tier, one of the attributes about all of these colors is that everyone thinks that they're right. Everyone thinks that their stage is the best stage.
Right. If you're in stage red, you're going to be like, there's no greater joy than the lamentation of, your enemy's women.
Yeah.
You're going to be convinced that everybody else is an idiot. They deserve me to take advantage of them because they're stupid.
And everyone else is an idiot. The people that don't believe the things that you believe are stupid people. They just can't see. If they could only see that this is how you do it, and this is the way, the world would be a better place. But little do you know that there's people who are farther down the road looking down, same as for you and me, looking at James and Justin going, oh my God, if they could just see.
Sorry person smarter than me that's judging me.
We're not judging, just being like, okay, how do we help them? By the time you get to tier 2, it's probably more like, it's more...
That's a nice thought.
Better understanding of being like, we can help them. So, yeah. There's a lot of ideology, a lot of ego in this. A lot, it's very easy to get stuck up on your own belief system and your own values and stuff like that. But anyway, I think we talked enough about stage red. It was great. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, share it with a friend, and everybody, until next time, stay spiritual.